Before there were roads connecting north and south, before the arteries of trade could pulse through an empire's body, there was a dream of water. In the year 605 AD, that dream would become the longest canal ever built by human hands, a river born not of rain or mountain snow, but of ambition, suffering, and an emperor's singular vision. Emperor Yang of the Sui dynasty stood before his court and declared a project of impossible scale. The waterway would run over 1,700 kilometers from the Yellow River in the north to the Yangtze Basin and beyond, to the rich, silken lands of the south. Millions of laborers would be conscripted. Mountains of earth would move. A civilization would be reshaped. More than 5 million men and women were conscripted in the first years of construction. They dug with wooden tools, moved soil in reed baskets, and slept in the open fields they were reshaping. History does not record most of their names, but the canal they made with their hands would outlast every dynasty that commanded them. When the first water entered the newly carved channel, something irreversible had begun. The land itself was changed. What had been dry earth and marsh and disconnected rivers was now a single, continuous flow, a spine of water running through the body of China. The Grand Canal was alive. By the Tang dynasty, the canal had become the empire's central artery. Each year, hundreds of thousands of tons of grain traveled north from the fertile Yangtze Delta to feed the capital at Chang'an. The canal did not merely move food, it sustained dynasties. Without it, the north could not feed itself, and the empire could not hold. The canal carried silk from Suzhou and Hangzhou, salt from the coastal marshes, porcelain from the great kilns of the south. It carried ideas, poetry, mathematics, Buddhist sutras, architectural knowledge, wrapped inside the commerce of bolts and barrels. To travel the canal was to travel through the full richness of Chinese civilization. The poet Su Dongpa traveled the canal many times during his years of service and exile. He wrote of water markets and midnight lanterns, of rain falling on a canal city, of the sound of oars in the dark. The canal inspired a literature as much as it enabled a commerce. It gave China's poets a vocabulary of water, motion, and longing. The canal never slept. Even in the deep of night, cargo boats moved north and south, their paper lanterns tracing trails of light across the dark water. The Song Dynasty Canal was the busiest waterway in the medieval world, busier than the Rhine, the Nile, the Thames. A living artery that beat without pause. Suzhou grew where it did because of the canal. Her streets became waterways. Her waterways became streets. A city of bridges and thresholds, where every house had both a land door and a water door, one for the road, one for the canal. Marco Polo, who passed through in the 13th century, called it one of the noblest cities in the world. The merchants and officials who grew wealthy from the canal trade built their wealth into stone and water and living wood. The classical gardens of Suzhou are the direct inheritance of the canal's prosperity, compressed universes of mountain and lake and sky, designed to hold a lifetime of contemplation in a few acres of land. Yangzhou stood at the intersection of the canal and the Yangtze River, and this geography made it one of the wealthiest cities in medieval Asia. The salt trade alone made its merchants richer than princes. The Tang poet Du Mu immortalized the city in verse. 10 years of Yangzhou dreams, winning a name among the pleasure quarters. The city lived as grandly as it was remembered. Along the Grand Canal's length, thousands of bridges were built across the centuries, each one a collaboration between stone and water, between necessity and beauty. The bridge builders of China developed forms that have stood for more than 1,000 years, their arches perfectly mirrored in the water below, turning the canal into a gallery of circles. At the canal's southern end lay Hangzhou, which travelers and poets from Marco Polo to Su Dongpa agreed was paradise on earth. The Song dynasty made it their capital. Its lakes and hills and canals created a beauty so total that the Chinese proverb still holds. Above is heaven, below are Suzhou and Hangzhou. The canal had reached its most radiant destination. For many families who lived on the canal, the boat was not a vehicle but a home. Generations were born, married, and died on the same vessel, or one like it. Their world was defined by the width of the canal, the rhythm of the seasons, and the direction of the current. They knew the canal's every mood, its spring floods, its winter ice, its summer green. Long before the traders and officials, the canal fed a simpler hunger. The fishermen who worked its waters in the hours before dawn moved with the practiced silence of generations. The Thronet's arc has not changed in 2,000 years. The carp, the silver bream, the eel, these were the canal's first gifts to its people. Where the canal narrowed and the current ran fast, there were the trackers, men who harnessed their own bodies to drag the heavy cargo barges against the water. Their songs were work songs, sung in rhythm with each step forward. Their backs bent, their hands bled, and they pulled the grain and silk and salt of civilization forward, one agonizing step at a time. When the day's journey ended and the boats moored together in the shelter of a wide bend, the canal people made their own music. Pipa notes carried across the water in the dark, song answering song from different boats. These are the folk songs of the canal, love songs and work songs, songs of missing home, songs that rose and fell with the water itself. Every generation born near the canal learned the same thing first: how to read the water, which currents ran deep, which banks gave way, where the big carp hit at noon, how to judge the weather by the color of the dawn sky over the water. The canal was their first school, and its lessons lasted a lifetime. The oldest sections of the Grand Canal's embankment walls have been standing for more than 14 centuries. The water that moves against them today is no different from the water that moved against them when Tang Dynasty grain barges passed on moonlit nights. Stone and water, the oldest partnership, the oldest conversation. Along the canal's banks, craftsmen still practice trades that the waterway made famous. The lacquerware of Yangzhou, the embroidery of Suzhou, the woodblock printing of Hangzhou. These are not museum relics. They are living skills, passed from hand to hand across the generations, kept alive by the same patient attention that built the canal itself. The Grand Canal still flows through the hearts of the cities it created. In Suzhou, in Yangzhou, and Hangzhou, the canal is still the city's living center, a place for evening walks, for fishing at first light, for the contemplation that comes naturally beside moving water. The past and the present move together on its surface, indistinguishable. The lock gate is the canal's heartbeat, the mechanism by which it moves water uphill, defying topography, connecting rivers that were never meant to meet. The engineers of the Song dynasty perfected the pound lock, a technology that would not appear in Europe for another 3 centuries. Every ship that passes through a lock today inherits this Chinese invention. A civilization can be understood by what it builds to last. The Great Wall kept enemies out. The Grand Canal brought everything in: grain, silk, salt, spices, poetry, philosophy, the seeds of cities. It was not a wall, but an opening. Not a defense, but an embrace. The ripples it set in motion are still traveling. The Grand Canal is the longest canal in the world and the oldest still in use. It has carried the weight of empires and the dreams of farmers, the silk of brides, and the last journeys of the dead. It has outlasted every dynasty that claimed to own it, because the canal never belonged to any dynasty. It belongs to the water, to the land, and to the people who have always known how to live beside a river that never stops flowing.